Many thanks for joining us, dear viewers. This is our special edition on the current affairs of the country, Ethiopia. We're going to have a Zoom meeting with Professor Mohammed Hassen. Professor Mohammed Hassen, thank you for joining me and welcome to this program.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, today we'll more especially we'll discuss about the current situation in the country, Ethiopia. How you are following the situation in this country, starting since the Northern War was started in Ethiopia. How are you following the situation in this country?
First of all, this war have two objectives from those who are waging the war. Is the psychological welfare against the government and the Ethiopian people in order to bring them into so-called negotiation table. The so-called TPLF is just a tool for the external forces to push the government of Dr. Abiy to negotiate and even finally to surrender. This small group which have been defeated and its fighting capacity have been reduced for almost 75%. And finally, they came out from their holes and took over Tigray. Their fighting capacity have big number is reduced, mobilized the people and sending all the youth, men and women, including pregnant women, to the front. You could see how they are desperate is that they have entered into Wallo and even now closer to Shoa sometimes, as I hear from there and there. But this is an organization who doesn't have any political objective, and it has been used by external forces as a pressure-making element. Here is the issue is that the Ethiopian people and the National Defense Force have to understand the new tactic, the enemy which is waging, the enemy, the main enemy is that those who are backing the TPLF behind. And we have now noticed that all their medias and their embassies in Addis Ababa, they are waging a psychological welfare against the government and against the Ethiopian people. Such a situation that it is only through mobilization and organization can be defeated. We see certain success in certain areas that the government and the upper region troops made a very successful defense, that their plan was to go to Mille and try to capture the road from Djibouti to Addis Ababa and then put pressure on Addis Ababa to come to the table, the so-called table. The purpose is that it is the United States and its allies have decided for a regime change in Ethiopia against all odds. That is, the Ethiopian people and the government is trying to stop these bandits who are infiltrating in different parts of the region. But I'm confident that they will be defeated finally by the popular forces and the Ethiopian Defense Force. One have to understand the strategy of this war and who is waging this war and why is they are waging. This have to be explained to the public openly, must be mobilization and must be an organization to answer to this new enemy which is trying to destabilize our country, Ethiopia, and bring us in a very big, terrible situation. Everybody knows that the TPLF cannot rule that country. It has not the capacity, neither the legitimacy. The psychology of the people is totally against them, let alone other Ethiopian people, even the people of Tigray, to a certain extent, they don't have any support for this ethno-fascist organization, but it was used by external force. This war is a war by agents who have been subsidized, supported, satellite support were given to them, diplomatic support were given to them, and so on, to terrorize us. And in this situation, we have to be united, and we have to not only to be united, at the same time, organize, make sure that the fifth column are eliminated in a sense. I'm not calling for killing and so on. I'm calling for eliminating their capacity of gathering information and trying to disturb the life of the ordinary people in Ethiopia. This is my understanding. We have to know also other thing is United States have decided to remove Dr. Abiy's government. You could see that it is in the past they used to say that there must be a democratic election and so on and so on. That was the recipe they are giving to everybody. But Ethiopia have made the democratic election. Dr. Abiy and his government was elected. Despite of that, they are not satisfied and they want to continue to the regime change. And this shows clearly whatever of the government quality is, they want a regime change and they wanted to dominate the region by hook or crook. The second important thing that it is they don't want that the new Horn of Africa to reestablish again. They wanted to fight against the agreement, the tripartite agreement which have been signed in Asmara to kill it while it is in an embryo level and to let our region be dominated for their future wars with other external forces in the continent. So it is the third point is that it is to also warn other African countries any strategy which makes them independent from external forces is not accepted and they will be crushed. So you see all the mobilization, whether it is media or whether it is diplomacy, whether it is African Union and even other states around. Zambia now is claiming that she have removed the Zambian population of those who are living in the embassy and the diplomats and their dependents to go out of Addis Ababa. And the same time that it is the US said that they are going to give aid for Zambia, $30 million. They are shopping to find friends to isolate us from the region, but they didn't succeed. We hear some noise around Uganda. They are putting also on the neighboring countries a pressure. We hear also Uhuru, he was invited to Washington about 3-4 weeks ago. And now we hear also certain calls who are demanding this solution must have an African solution. While a sovereign state is invaded by tug of elements who have ruled that country for 27 years, looted, killed, and so on. And while the population of Ethiopia have revolted against them for almost 4 years and throw them out from the power, and now they are using this element to destabilize our country. The only situation must come is the total mobilization of the population, building the morale of national defense, and explain to the people the agenda behind this war. This is what I understand. The agenda is very simple. It wants a regime change in Ethiopia.
Well, why the TPLF, while moving around the neighboring regions, Afar and Amhara, while the TPLF is only targeting the civilians?
These are warlords who have no any society project or concept for Ethiopia. They are used as a means of destabilization. I don't think even they represent the people of Tigray. They are using, it's an old horse, they are riding with them. This are just an ethno-fascist thugs, and they are used by the external forces. So the maneuver is that they want to give it a legal concept for their destabilization of our country, and they have chosen the most frustrated, defeated element who have run away to Tigray, and they wanted to use them that in the name of the people of Tigray they are waging this war. But in reality is that these are mercenaries subsidized by external forces. The war is not waged by Tigray. It is waged by external forces behind them, encourage them, give them fund, give them satellites information, give them diplomatic support to the extent that even they push them to the extent that they will go to Addis Ababa and take over the power. In fact, their main objective is they want a total destabilization, a regime change, and if it is possible also, they don't mind if Ethiopia goes into a civil war. We have only one country and we have to protect our people and our country. And this is a very difficult time. Everybody must be mobilized, must be aware. We have to raise the consciousness of the people in order to give them the direct line is very important.
Well, in general, why the Western countries, especially the United States of America, is working against the interest of all Ethiopians and working against the Prime Minister, Dr. Abiy Ahmed?
I think one of the major issues is that Dr. Abiy Ahmed, he wanted a peaceful region to work with all the states in the region, and they wanted to maintain the contradiction in the region. In fact, it is for a very long time their strategy was by divide and rule and create contradiction among the different states and the people. That allowed them to dominate the region. That allowed them also to control Ethiopia for a very long time. But that situation have changed, and the table or turn against them. And this peaceful relationship between the three countries, Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Somalia, should not materialize. This will bring us into a difficult situation. Imagine that if this situation grows up, the relationship between the peoples in Ethiopia is getting stronger. The relationship between Ethiopia and the neighboring countries getting stronger and going to the second level. They got frightened because they thought that it is the organization they have created, AFRICOM, the NATO of Africa, will be weakened in the longer run. And African people, they might learn from this. And this is very dangerous, and we have to stop it at the embryo level. They wanted to kill the idea and to disturb the region, whatever it's cost. But the population and the government of the regions, they have to be steadfast, and they have to defend themselves and defend their sovereignty. This is what I understand.
Why the US want to save the leaders of TPLF and their aim from falling down?
The United States thinks that it is the TPLF is the easiest surrogate organization can be used. They knew that the TPLF have no any project to the country. They don't have even any project to their own people, but they can be used as a means of destabilization. So they are themselves, the TPLF have no head. Those who are thinking and they are very far from TPLF, and they are using them as a mercenaries to destabilize the country. It's not beyond that.
In your understanding, what is the main relationship between the US government, especially the current US government, the Biden administration, and that of the TPLF leaders? What is exactly their relationship?
I don't think governments have no special relationship. Government have interest. I don't think they have a special love to the people of Tigray and to the TPLF. They are using them to enhance their own project, which means that they have decided, saying that it is the government of Prime Minister Abiy will not cooperate with us and continue the old policy by being in antagonism with the Somalis, in antagonism with Eritrea and so on. If it had continued in that line, I don't think they will have supported the TPLF. Their objective is that for total domination and subjugation of the region and the people of the region. Once Ethiopia have started a new road and thinking that it is this contradiction, it is a false contradiction which was brought from outside of the region with all the states and the people, and we will try to rebuild our region and our country. This idea is not liked by Washington, because Washington only lives and controls that region by creating crisis and dominating it.
What do you know about the track record of criminals that the TPLF leaders have been doing for the last 27 years on Ethiopia?
They know everything. They know everything, and they used to support them. The TPLF regime is a minority regime, and it does whatever they were asked by Washington, D.C. Not only that, TPLF even corrupting and buying elements within the United States in their side by paying them money and so on, black money to them. They don't care for Ethiopia and for the Ethiopian people. They imitate as if that they love Ethiopia and they are helping the people of Ethiopia. And the contrary, they see Ethiopia from a strategical point of view. It is the most populous country on the Horn of Africa. And if we dominate Ethiopia, we will dominate the region and we can do whatever we want. That is their strategy and that is the policy of United States toward the Horn of Africa. So any kind of rapprochement between the peoples and the government in the region, it is forbidden according to United States. They will use anything, not only TPLF, in the future also they might even create organizations and so on, fake organizations. They might subsidize them, they might arm them and so on, and put pressure on their allies and in the region. They might mobilize other puppet regimes in Africa against us. But the only solution we have is that we have to be strong and steadfast to defend our country and our project. And finally, we will win if as long as we are strong, united, and we have a project for future.
Well, why the TPLF right now at the moment, why the TPLF is waging the country? What is the main objective? What are the main objective of their war in this country?
This war is a war of agents. So they push and they give order to the TPLF and including satellite pictures and so on to push them as much as possible when TPLF is winning, they never say anything. When the TPLF is losing and defeated and encircled, then they will come and run to Addis Ababa 100 times. And now they are hiding behind the African Union. This shows you that the TPLF is losing the momentum. The TPLF is a tool to put pressure on the government of Dr. Abiy Ahmed that it is to come to round the table and surrender. That is what they are asking. It is if you don't negotiate, negotiation is a word they are using, but in fact they are asking surrender. Surrender in a sense that or you follow the line we tell you, or we will overthrow you. Now it have reached to the thing in their psychology and in their understanding of their politics. They wanted to overthrow the government of Dr. Abiy and to bring groups there and there, including TPLF, and to install them as a puppet in Addis Ababa, because they are not concerned for the democratization of the country. One of the conditions they used to say a country must have an election and so on. Ethiopia did an election recently. Dr. Abiy was elected overwhelmingly by Ethiopian people, and it is a legitimate government, but they didn't care. Legitimacy for them is if it fits their interest. That is it. Election, it goes if it fits their interest. Legitimate government, according to them, if they accept it, that government, it belongs to them and it is inside their pocket. If you move out a little bit and you have a patriotic sense and you wanted to establish a paternal relationship in the region and beyond, then you are an enemy and then they will wage war. This is what they did in Syria, this is what they did in Libya, this is what they did in Iraq, and everywhere they waged the last 20 years, they were waging war left and right and even damaging their own economy. These are also another warlords, so global warlords with their allies, the British and the European Union and so on. They see that if Ethiopia is walking in a new path, then this will be an example and it will create a problem for us in the continent. Second, the continent have 60% of the world resources and they wanted to dominate that. And at this moment, they have also competition from Asia. They wanted to block Asia. For them, if they cannot dominate, then they prefer to have a civil war. And a civil war is a means of blocking their competitor from Asia, because everybody now is speaking and writing a lot about the Asian century. Therefore, Africa was considered their backyard. It's a very important continent and very rich, which will provide, China had only 7% of suitable agricultural land, that Africa have 60% of suitable agricultural land. It can supply China with food, meat, and everything. Plus, Africa have 60% of the minerals from oil and all important strategical minerals. So they wanted to block that against China and other competitors, Russia and so on, and Asia in general, including even Japan. That is why now they are mobilizing. heavily that Ethiopia is 115 million population. It is the second biggest populous country. It is the headquarters of African Union. If a change, such a change comes with a new view and so on, it will have a boomerang effect on the other African countries that they will turn and see about themselves and try to work and create harmonious relationship among themselves and build the situation of their population. This frightened Europe and frightens United States. Therefore, the only candidate they saw that can spoil this situation is the ethno-fascist TPLF, which have been totally defeated and it is exiled in Tigray. They supported this in order to weaken the Dr. Abiy's government. But I'm sure that it is the majority of Ethiopian people are standing behind him, and we will struggle together, who doesn't represent anybody except themselves. And the Ethiopian people, they must understand the enemy is behind the war. It's not the tag which is in front of us. TPLF is just a ragtag, but they are fighting for their masters who is subsidizing them, support them diplomatically, and so on with all other means. This have to be brought to the people. There must be discussion from every level until up to raise the consciousness of the population of Ethiopia and organize the people of Ethiopia. What they want is to create a demoralization among the Ethiopian people. We should not be demoralized. In fact, on the contrary, it should be a new start of unity of all Ethiopian people. We have to unify the youth. Ethiopia is almost 70% of the population are younger than 40 years. And this is the future of them. And they wanted to play on the future of this generation. And this generation must think very well and understand the nature of this war. And then the nature of this war is to keep them in poverty, keep them in a miserable situation, keep them in their own country, hostages that they cannot move and work and so on. They should defend their country and defend the government of Dr. Abiy. And we have to defeat the mercenary TPLF and bring peace and tranquility to our country. And we should give a lesson to those enemy who are 30,000 kilometers very far from us to tell them enough is enough. We will stand as one man and one woman to defend our country and to rebuild our country. The motto must be this one.
Well, how do you see the involvement of the Western countries, especially the Biden administration, on Ethiopia's internal affairs? Because Ethiopia is a sovereign country. Ethiopia can solve its own problems with its own mechanisms. And with no call from the government of Ethiopia, the US government, the current Biden government administration is involving in the current affairs of the country. Why this? It is fair.
They don't consider that we are sovereign states. They consider us like an appendix, a new colonial state subsidized by them. And Ethiopia had been for a very long time in that line. They used to do whatever they want. But now what frightened them is Ethiopia is turning to herself and trying to solve her internal problem at the same time to create a solidarity and a new policy with its neighbors. This frightened them. If this process continues, their project of AFRICOM, which is called the Africa NATO, which they are putting military bases everywhere in order to control the African continent and African wealth, it gradually will collapse. Therefore, Dr. Abiy have crossed the red line and he is no more a friend of us, and we have to get red and defeat and overthrow his government. They don't care of the opinion of Ethiopian people. The Ethiopian people have decided by vote and voted him to the prime ministership, and he was continuing to build the economic situation and so on. They don't want that. What they want is that we dominate you, you have to accept. If you don't accept, we will break you down, and we will use all the means. Therefore, the main architect of the war is United States, the Biden government and the Democrats, who want to design a regime change project toward Ethiopia. This is the real purpose of the war.
Well, why the Western countries are trying to diminish the TPLF brutal crime against all Ethiopians? Why they are trying to diminish this fact?
No, they don't care. TPLF's crime is not a crime toward their own people. It's a crime is made against Ethiopian people. Therefore, they don't care as long as it is an agent and it is applying what they were told. For 27 years, they were their agents in the region, and they were doing everything in what the US was telling them. But now that situation has changed, and that had irritated them, that Ethiopia is no more taking order from us. We cannot control Ethiopia the way we want. That is why now they supported that the previous TPLF, which have been defeated by popular revolt, and they know that the popular revolt took more than 4 years, and finally melted like ice cream and ran away to its region. They use the TPLF as if that they are humanitarian, as if that they like the Ethiopian people and so on, but they use TPLF.
Well, Professor, lastly, what is expected from all Ethiopians in order to protect their country, as well as what is expected from the government of African countries and their leaders in standing by the side of Ethiopia in this critical time for this country? And what is expected from all stakeholders in completing this war situation and fully back to the development of the country? What is expected from all?
The more we defeat these ethno-fascist thugs militarily and eliminate them from the areas they have occupied, and finally defeat them in their own bases, then it is the African countries, they will see what is happening and what is developing in Ethiopia. Probably one by one, they might change their opinion, because the African countries themselves, they are dominated by US and European imperialism. Therefore, they are frightened, and they are pushing them to play a role. The most important thing, it is not what they are saying. The most important thing is the mobilization of Ethiopian people and raising the consciousness of Ethiopian people, and continue the struggle and bring it to its final chapter by defeating the TPLF. There is no even TPLF, a tug of criminals who are in service of external forces. If we have achieved that, then we will see the tone of the dance will change. Therefore, continue mobilize, discuss among the population, discuss among the youth, men and women, and so on, explain the real enemy behind the curtain. Once we do that, the consciousness of the majority of the population will rise up, and this will give them a direction to struggle and finally defeat those who are in the front line, which is the soldiers, the black soldiers, the name of TPLF, who have been sent with the command of Western countries, United States and Europe.
Well, Professor, I'm almost done with my questions. Lastly, if you have a general message for the public and government of Ethiopia regarding the current situation of the country and others, you're highly welcome.
My last message will be organize, raise the consciousness of the people, be steadfast, and know your enemy properly, and not only to know the soldier which is in front of you, which is an agent, subsidized, supported, psychologically prepared by the real enemy who is behind the curtain. The real enemy is that at this moment, which is challenging the Ethiopian sovereignty and the unity of Ethiopian people, is the external forces who are very far from us, and that is the European Union and United States. We should raise our consciousness, we should raise the consciousness of our people, and we have to make clear that the nature of the war must be explained to the people in a clear form of it. And this, as long as we are living there, and we have lived for centuries in that area, we will steadfast fight, struggle, defend, and win this invasion which is imposed on us.
Well, Professor Mohammed Hassen, I really appreciate your time and the thoughts that you shared to us. Thank you very much for joining us again.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, dear viewers, this will bring us to the end of this edition. I will come on the mobile host and producing this program for you. Till the next edition. Have a beautiful time.